And now for my next number, I'd like to return to the
classic. Time.
Hey everyone, Alex back again with another part to my top 100 albums, of all time. I know, we're doing 30 to 21 in this video, and well, I'm excited because we're almost coming to the end. I know it's getting there. It's been ongoing for so many weeks, and it seems like it's been a while since. It does seem like it's been a while since the first part, but now that we're closing in, it's been brilliant. If you've missed any parts, like I've said previously, there's a playlist in the description with every part to this series. And also, I forgot to say in the last video, but this is just my opinion. You may disagree with me. You may think an album should be higher, you may think an album should be lower, you may think an album should not be on this list at all. But obviously these top 100 lists are all opinionated. I loved seeing these top 100 videos going around when they were going around the first time. If you've got a top 100 video series that I haven't checked out, let me know and I'll definitely check it out as soon as I get the opportunity to. But with all that said and done beforehand, let me get into this because, well, we've got 10 albums to do, so 10 albums to talk about. So let's kick it off with my number 30, Public Enemy's Fear of a Black Planet. Now, I'm gonna say it, this would be my number one hip-hop album of all time. Like, the number one, the best made hip-hop album, I'm gonna say. But I can't quite say that it's my favourite. There is maybe one or two more. Actually, loads more on the top of this as my favourite. But as far as best made goes, this one's up there because you've got, Fight the Power, Can't Do Nothing For You Man, which, believe it or not, is my favourite Public Enemy song. 911 Is a Joke, Welcome to the Terror Dome, Who Stole the Soul, War at 33 and a third, Revolutionary Generation, again, another album where if you can name a bad song on this album, you are lying. Public Enemy sort of influenced the way hip-hop is, and just an incredible album. Yeah. We saw Nation of Millions before, but this has always been the one I preferred of the two, just because I think it's overall, I think this album is better made. I do think this album has a stronger message, and in the world today I still think this album's relevant, but it is, even without all that taking into account, this is the album out of Public Enemy's discography I tend to go to the most, outside of the live album I have of theirs, obviously, but if I'm just in the mood for a studio album, I'll go to this one, because it is an absolutely phenomenal album. Really cannot go wrong with Public Enemy's Fear of a Black Planet. So yeah, that comes in at number 30. Number 29 is another 80s R&B album, but it's more than that, because this particular artist has also stepped into like jazz and sort of crosses over almost into the pop genre. That's George Benson with Give Me the Night. An early one I discovered back when I was discovering 80s R&B for the first time, before it became my favourite genre, like back when hip hop was my favourite genre and I was just delving into the 80s R&B stuff. George Benson was one of the earliest ones I discovered, particularly this album with songs like Love Times Love, Off Broadway, Give Me the Night, Turn Out the Lamplight, Midnight Love Affair. Just incredible. How can you not love George Benson? I think someone out there likes George Benson, whether they like the more jazzy stuff of George or the more R&B stuff of George, like this one. This album sort of got me into both because it kind of crosses over between the two at times, but yeah, it's definitely one that I discovered it, like I said, discovered early, has stuck with me, and I now get everything from George Benson, but this is the one that, well, I'll go to the most, just for that sentimental reasons. I'll go to this one more. And it's produced, and this album's produced by Quincy Jones as well, if that helps. The same Quincy Jones who produced all the Michael Jackson stuff. But yeah, George Benson's Give Me the Night comes in at 29. At 28, probably an album more of you will know and appreciate. Supertramp's Breakfast in America. Stellar album, of course. You've got Gone Hollywood, The Logical Song, Goodbye Stranger, Breakfast in America, Take the Long Way Home. Yeah, incredible. There's also, fun fact, is one of 2 albums I use to test out a new sound system when I get one. The other one, of course, being Asia by Steely Dan. But this is the other one I test out with it. Their last great album to some people. I think the follow-up to this is also good as well. But, yeah, just... And at one point in time, this was my second favourite Supertramp album, but I kind of listened to this one a bit more, and I realise now it's had a bigger impact on me than the other Supertramp album that would have been on the list. But I just always like this album cover where the city's made up of like cutlery and kitchen essentials and things like that, so that's always intrigued me as well. But yes, an album where if you can, I'm going to say this from here on out, if you can hear a bad song on here, you're pretty much lying, because there isn't a bad song on here. But yeah, Breakfast, nearly dropped it. Breakfast in America's, I'll get there one day. Supertramp's Breakfast in America comes in at number 28. And if you're wondering why it's not any higher on the list, it's because I didn't actually discover that one till a little bit later, back when I was going through my phase of trying to pick up some classic albums. That was one of the ones I grabbed. Fell in love with it, so I can't help that. 27. And this album, again, people may have their thoughts on this. You will have your thoughts on this. But Monk's Dream, Thelonious Monk. Great album. Yeah. One of the reasons I love jazz music more than I do is this album. The title track, 5 Spot Blues, Just a Gigolo, everything on this album, really. Yeah, incredible stuff. Can't go wrong with Thelonious Monk. Of course, I had to 180 gram reissue of this, but I don't care, because it is a great sounding reissue, and because of this album, yeah, I listen to a hell of a lot more jazz than I would normally. So yeah, Thelonious Monk's Dream comes in at 27. At number 26 is the only album on this list, I believe, or the only album in this part, I believe, that I don't own, and that is Eric B. and Rakim's Paid in Full. Now I get it. It's a classic hip-hop album. It's one I don't have. I get it. I have individual songs off this album, but as far as it goes, you never see the album on vinyl. I've seen reissues, but there's been other stuff I've wanted above this. I should probably grab it next time I see it, but it's an album I don't own, and it's in 26. Obviously you've got the song I Know You Got Soul, you've got the song itself, Paid in Full. It's just an album chock-a-block of samples, as hip-hop was at that time, and they were sort of doing something unique but different at the same time. You had Eric B with his beats and then Rakim with his sort of unique rhyme style, but at the end of the day it was sort of it was not quite the electro hip hop that we came to know. It was the sample based hip hop that was starting to form through EPMD and Schoolie D and and NWA and people like that, where hip hop became, well, it was already a sample based thing, but where it sort of changed from being Kraftwerk samples to more 70s funk and soul samples. So it was that big crossover there and helped pioneer the sound that hip hop has now become instead of what it used to be. Hope that makes sense. But yeah, I love this album. It's one of the ones that stuck out to me for sure, and that's why it comes in at number 26. At 25, again, another album people are probably thinking is going to be a bit higher because I have praised this album so much. We're not quite there yet. AM by Arctic Monkeys. It's the album that introduced me to Arctic Monkeys and the reason they are my favourite band, but, and that's a massive but, by the way, this album I really don't listen to as much. It's actually, funny enough, one of the ones, maybe the one I pull, there's maybe 3 more albums I pull before this one to listen to, or 2 more. But I definitely do appreciate this album for what it is because it introduced me to the band. Songs like Do I Wanna Know, which had millions of hits on YouTube, Are You Mine, Arabella, Why Do You Only Call Me When You're High, Snap Out of It, great album. Of course it won them 4 BAFTAs in the same year. Was successful enough to the point where they could take a 5-year hiatus. So yeah, can't go wrong, especially with Arctic Monkeys, AM. Great album. It's just one I don't listen to as much, but it definitely had that an early influence on me when it first came out. So obviously I have to put it at the 25 spot. Had to be in my top 25. So yeah, Arctic Monkeys AM comes in at number 25. 24, I can't remember if this is the first album from the... No, this isn't not the first album from this list. You would have seen, like I've said previously, I've limited myself to 3 albums from one artist. If a 4th one slips in there, I apologise. But Marvin Gaye's I Want You comes in at 24. How can you not love Marvin Gaye? It's got the song I Want You. It's got After the Dance, Since I Had You, Come Live With Me Angel. So many great songs on one brilliant album. It's Marvin Gaye, I Want You. It's a great album. You cannot go wrong with this. It really has got that funky Marvin Gaye sound that he became more known for in the 70s, sort of transitioning from his 60s work with Tammy Terrell and Kim Weston to this more soulful and funky stuff that he later became known for. He was sort of making a few more upbeat songs but still keeping his voice at the more soulful end of things. But yeah, I Want You by Marvin Gaye, absolutely stellar album here. So yeah, that comes in at number 24. This is 23, and again, it's one of those albums that I may not have picked up originally because it's considered a classic album, and it's one I sort of had to go out on my own and discover it. And it's the reason I went out and picked up all these classic albums, because someone gifted it to me for Christmas one year, and I put the needle onto side 1. The guitar riff came in and I was blown away. Led Zeppelin by Led Zeppelin. Now yeah, you've got loads of covers on this album, but the song Good Times, Bad Times introduced me to them and is the reason I listen to love Led Zeppelin so much, and the reason that I picked up all these classic albums that maybe I wasn't going to because everybody else had them in their collections. You know, like Pink Floyd, Dark Side of the Moon, or Supertramp, Breakfast in America, things like that are in my collection. I have because of this album. If it wasn't for this album, I may not have owned them. So, yeah, Led Zeppelin. I've told the story multiple times, over and over again, and it's a story I'll keep telling until the day I die. But Led Zeppelin, absolute phenomenal album, and I just cannot express enough how much I love this album because of the impact it had the first time I listened to it. So yes, Led Zeppelin comes in at number 23. 22, we're nearly there with this video, guys. Sit back, relax. 80s R&B, it wouldn't be my channel if we didn't throw in some 80s R&B somewheres, and I've thrown this album in at number 22 because of how much of an impact it's had. It's an incredible album. In fact, let me show you. It's Boys Night Out by Full Circle. If you don't know Full Circle, this is the only album they ever put out, so I'm not expecting you to know who they are. It came out in 86 originally, and then it was reissued in 87 under the name First Circle because I think what happened, the label realised there was another band called Full Circle, and they had to rename the group had to rename themselves. So the album was I don't think the album was ever released outside of Europe, and then after renamed themselves First Circle, they went international in America and Japan, but I don't know if they ever made it big because, like I said, it's the only album they've ever put out. Working Up a Sweat is a great song. In the Name of Love is probably my favourite song on here. Get Off It is such a great song. Can't Find a Love is another great. In fact, everything on here is great. 80s R&B, a must own in my opinion, but just an underrated one. And of course you've got, this is also a band that features Randy Muller of Brass Construction. So on keyboards and percussion, so that kind of tells you what this album's like. Sort of think of Brass Construction crossed with Shalimar. That's the best way I can describe it. But yeah, just an incredible album, Full Circle. Yeah, like I said, the only album they ever put out. Randy Muller only features on like 1 or 2 tracks, but it still kind of tells you the sound this album has. But yeah, Full Circle's Boys Night Out comes in at 22. Now, earlier when I said that Eric B. Rakim was the only album I don't own in this video, that was a lie, but I've just remembered what my 21 was. I looked at my list, so it doesn't matter. But 21, the other album I don't own. And it kills me that I don't own this album because it is such a great album. It's Bitches Brew by Miles Davis. This album, obviously you guys probably know the story. Miles Davis got a bunch of musicians together, gave them a key, said rise, and they just jammed in that key, and that's where Bitches Brew came from. But I love it. I can't help but love this album. It's my favourite, I will say it is my favourite Miles Davis album. Even outside of Sketches of Spain, which famously, well, probably not famously, but I do like more than most people. Kind of Blue, I like it more than that. I like it more than ESP or any other, obviously any of the Miles Davis albums. Bitches Brew is the one I want, have connected with the most. And after hearing that backstory, I was like, this album, how can I not love this album? It's Bitches Brew by Miles Davis. It's incredible. And yeah, it's one of those albums where even though there was no synchronicity, they were just brought together and were told to jam to one key. It works. It really sounds great, and it is a great album from Miles Davis, one of his best. So Bitches Brew for me comes in at number 21. Right, and that's it for this part. Guys, thanks so much for tuning into the video. If you enjoyed, give it a thumbs up. Subscribe if you're not already. Turn on the bell notification in case you forget my upload dates, which are Wednesday and Sunday, but just in case you do forget, that's what the bell's for, so you know when I upload next. And yeah, with that, that's it for this video. Guys, thanks so much. I'll see you again soon. Peace.